It's alive.
Do you want to explain from your class and what it's all for and such?
Yeah. The class that I'm doing this for is called Hero Project, and this semester we're learning about the World War II and all the people that happened in what went on in it.
One of his assignments is to interview someone that experienced World War II. And
Okay.
I remember my dad telling me your stories, and so I thought we would take advantage of it.
You have any questions then? Is that what,
Yeah.
what you need?
So where did you grow up at? Where did you grow up at?
Right here in Chester. I was born here 94 years ago.
Are there any childhood experiences that you had? Like tipping over the tractor or things like that? Like funny stories.
Okay.
Well, I was out home teaching today, and I just was talking to Jack Hansen. I told him things have really changed for the better. I remember going down to church. We lived over here, and to go to church we walked sometimes we harnessed up the team and went with a sleigh. It's a lot better now.
Where was the church at? I'm only familiar with the Old Chester Church.
That was
That one?
Mm-hmm.
Probably the little. There was a smaller one before the brick one. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, there was two before the one that got there now. Little white church with the opening on the east. Then they built on the north side of that. Had the stage and a couple of classrooms where the old church was. It was a log building.
So how old were you when the war started?
17 years old.
17. So you were right in that hiring age for enlisting.
Yep.
How did you hear about it?
Well, I was going to school, mechanic school up in Weiser, Idaho, when we got the news, and we all got together and was listening to it on the radio when the war was declared and took place.
How did you join the war? Did you sign up or were you enlisted? Were you
Drafted.
drafted?
I didn't volunteer.
What was that like? What was the process to be drafted?
They had a draft board in the county, and they look over the ages of the people and then send them letters. Uncle Sam wants you.
In which branch did you serve in?
In the Armed Forces, I was in the 12th Armored Division,
Okay, so you were a foot soldier.
tank company.
Thanks. Okay, that's cool.
They're just right down there.
That's cool.
It's just
What did you do with the What did you do in the tanks?
I was a mechanic
Okay.
and the driver of the maintenance tank.
Well, that's cool. So what exactly is a maintenance tank?
Well, it's the same, the one that's sitting down in St. Anthony, you know? That
Okay,
tank
yeah.
sitting there. And the maintenance tank is the same as that. It had a turret on it, but it didn't have a gun on it. It was open.
Okay.
And we had our tools and everything in the tank.
Okay, so you were a repairman for other tanks.
Yep.
Okay, that's cool.
That's important.
So where did you serve geographically?
Where?
Yeah.
Well, trained here in America, and then we went to England, where we trained for a little while more, and then we crossed the English Channel into France.
Okay.
Went through Germany, France, and ended up in Austria.
Australia, huh?
Austria.
Austria.
Austria, not Australia. So were you part of the Normandy invasion? And that
No,
big deal
it was after that.
after that?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have
Yeah.
anyone? Oh, you go ahead.
Pardon?
It's okay.
Did you have anyone waiting for you at home, like a girlfriend?
Nope.
No.
Hadn't met me yet. I was just in high school.
He was waiting for you to grow up.
That's true.
What was boot camp like?
Was what?
Boot camp.
Well, boot camp was Navy, not the Army.
That's good training.
Yeah. How was training then?
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. We trained first at Camp Camel, Kentucky, and then transferred after, I don't know how many months, but then we went to Camp Barkley, Texas, before getting ready to go overseas in our training. We did some bivouacking in Tennessee and through there.
So, what was the food like?
Well, I enjoyed the food.
You did?
Most people didn't, but I enjoyed the food. And
What was?
When
what were
we-
your normal foods that you had daily?
well, when we were here in training, we had regular food, vegetables, potatoes, meat, and all that goes with it. The one thing that I really liked that very few people like, I don't know why, but we had beef gravy deal on toast. And I enjoyed it. Last week,
Beef gravy on toast.
and the other thing was pudding, bread pudding.
Ah.
I grew up with bread pudding, and I really enjoyed it. And very few people did.
So what was your average day like?
Well, I was really blessed. 'Cause, my patriarchal blessing, Abraham Hillman here, when I got my patriarchal blessing, in the blessing he said that if I was called to serve in the Army during the war, that my life would be preserved and I would return home to fill a mission both at home and abroad. And that if I would live the gospel, those in charge, and be obedient to all those in charge, they would do the best they could to make life pleasant for me. And in training, that was really fulfilled. I was a mechanic, but everybody was supposed to take all the hikes. They had full packs, and they had 5-mile hikes, 10-mile hikes, 25-mile hikes, and all. And our motor sergeant, officer, before they'd take the hikes and all, he came to me. He said, "Well, do you want to go on that hike?" And I said, "Not unless I have to." And he said, "Well, we'll see what we can do about it." And he would go to the company commander and talk to him about whether we needed work done on jeeps or tanks and all. He'd say, "Well, you want everything to go, be ready to go tomorrow. If he goes on this hike, it may not be ready." And the company manager, "Well, better let him stay and work on it."
2 for 1.
I think I only made one 5-mile hike and all the training. And he just did everything he could to keep me from having to take these old long hikes.
Yeah, that's how I would be. I would be, okay, get me out of this hike. Get me out of it. I don't want to do it. Give me something else. I'll do dishes if I have to. I don't want to do it.
Yeah. And I didn't have to do KP
Kitchen patrol.
or stand guard duty either while I was in training. So,
Did you have any spiritual experiences in it? Like, what did the other soldiers think of you of being LDS?
well, yes, there are quite a few. We had one of the things that took place when I was there, the Army, and most of the guys are real loud, rough talking people, swearing and all this old stuff. During training, I decided to try something, and with the crew members, the other crew members, there's 5 of us in the crew, and so I said, "Well, let's try something. Every time you catch any member of the crew swearing, call him on it, and he has to donate a dime. And then when we have the money, we'll go out and have dinner together." And it worked pretty good. The guys were quite enthusiastic about it. But after a while, one of them says, "Well, I'm not going to do this anymore. The only reason you're going to do that's so you can eat free on from the rest of these guys." So they quit doing it. But it was interesting. I got after the war, it was quite a few years after the war, I got a Christmas card from one of the guys. And he says that he tells his family and friends that I was the only soldier that never swore. So,
That's definitely not a bad thing to be known for it to be remembered by.
one of the guys during the war, I wanted to go back for a rest period for a few days, and he liked to write poetry, and so he had a bulletin board set up out by the cook shack truck where the cook was in, and he'd write poetry about the other guys, and it was usually pretty rough stuff. He'd talk about it. And one day we went up there, and there was one on there, and the only thing I can remember was 2 or 3 things that he wrote about me. And I didn't want anyone as a panty waist or stuff like that, so I took that thing down and threw it away. And I wish that I'd had it. If I'd have kept that, I'd have it mounted for all the grandkids to see. But the part that I can remember, he wrote on it, he said, if I was to write a poem about Sergeant Seeley, I'd have to write a Bible. And then one other thing that he said, The worst I've ever heard him say is dirty gall darn lug. And then the last part of it was, says, but Mrs. Seeley's boy is the kind of boy I'd like to be. And there's other in between, but those things is what I remember that he wrote about.
Cool.
I wish I'd mounted that in gold now, but at that time, I just didn't want it.
So, what was your non-average day like?
Well, every day in training you had to do close order drill, march, and according to commands after breakfast. And that part of the day was that. And then we'd do training, and but like I say, I didn't have to do that. I just went directly to the motor pool and worked as a mechanic. But that was the thing. Lunchtime for an hour, and then back to the old grind. One time when we were going out for a week on maneuvers, what we called them, a group of us decided we didn't want to, when we were going out, just staying out in the country, you know. So we got together and took turns and clipped our hair off. And so we wouldn't have to worry about combing our hair and take care of that. When we fell out for reveille the next morning, the company commander, he really read the riot act to us. He says, no more of that takes place here.
Mm-hmm.
But we enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
What about unusual days that weren't so, and I imagine you had days that weren't quite so, what's the word?
Mellow?
Mellow, yeah.
Well, one of the first outstanding things that happened after we landed, well, crossing the English Channel was I was never more scared than then. We had all of our tanks in one of these LSTs that opened up, and you drive your tanks in and you chain them down to the thing. And then we had bunks along the sides where we slept, you know, in there. But when we started to cross the channel, it was rough. Started rolling. One of the tanks in the center broke loose. And when they roll that, the big 30-ton tanks like this one down there, St. Anthony, and it'd swing around and bang against the one this way, and then roll back, it would bang against the other one. We wondered if it was going to knock the others loose, and everything would go loose, and something would go out the side, and we'd go with it. But we made it across safely. But it's the only time I was on the ocean where I didn't get a little bit seasick. I never did get real bad, but whenever I was
just like this,
on
just
the ship,
the queasiness of it.
It just bothered me. But I didn't get seasick on that. I was too scared.
That's fun.
Then, after we landed in France, the first miracle that happened to save my life was we'd come up to a marshy area, and there was just a single crossing, and the first tank that got up hit an anti-tank mine and blew it up. And the next morning, the company commander told me to go get that tank